The Starlight Lounge presents An Evening with the Progressive Box.
Oh, what a great audience. Let's dim the lights for this next one. Nope, too much. There it is. Gotta get things just right. Like Progressive's Name Your Price tool. Tell us what you want to pay and we help you find coverage options that fit your budget. And now, the mood is right. Wait, the lights are back on again. Trudy, can you? And now it's completely dark.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
Yeah, I know, we're all waiting for Collins. I get it. Let me ask you something. One question. Could you believe this nation has now been reduced to the spectacle of one semi-functional human being from Maine determining the course of the nation for the next 30 years? And I don't mean Kavanaugh. A woman in Maine, a once beautiful rock rib Republican state that turned left a long time ago because all of the people ran out of New York and Boston after destroying those cities. The liberals ran up to New England, you see, and they brought their politics with them. And now you have the vision. Look at Connecticut with him there, the fake Vietnam War hero, whatever his name was. Oh, Blumenthal, the one with the weird face and weird voice. You would think Connecticut would be somewhat split down the middle. No. Now Maine, you got Susan Collins. The whole world's now waiting for her decision on the Kavanaugh nomination. Can you believe it's come down to this? Now, I'm not going to talk about it much. We'll play it when she speaks with the fake presentation. But last night I went to the city of San Francisco after my show early. I had an early dinner. I haven't been in a while because of the vermin in the streets. I cannot take it. So I figured I'm not going to take it. The violence. You think I'm joking, right? You think we're making it up? So I go to one of my Italian restaurants in North Beach. I enjoyed the calamari. I had a great time. I was joking with the guys. The guy told me about his trip to Italy with his 8 family members from Naples down to Sicily. Wait till you hear what Oh, there she comes. Let's hear it. Come on, play it. Run it.
To explain my vote on the nomination of a justice to the United States
Oh, come on. Just make the statement.
I have begun my floor remarks explaining my decision
Oh,
to recognize
what's wrong with these people?
of the solemn nature.
They would never make it in radio, I'll tell you that.
Of the occasion.
Come on.
But today...
Stop it. I can't listen to this woman. I had a half a migraine. Now it's a full migraine on the right side. The minute she starts to speak. Milking it forever. What's with the new outfit, the Mao outfits they're all wearing with the neck covered? Well, I know the reason for that one. All right, turn it back on. Let's see how much we can take of her.
Then a solemn occasion. The president nominated Brett Kavanaugh.
Yes, we know that.
July 9th. Within moments of that announcement,
you know, I'm actually
special
getting
interest
sick.
groups raced to be the first to oppose him, including one organization that didn't even bother to
Okay, so
fill
she's
in
moving in the right
judge's
direction,
name
right?
on
She's
its
justifying.
pre-written press release.
Yes, I'm voting.
They
She's going to say
simply
yes.
wrote
Clint, yes. Hand up if
that
yes.
they opposed
Jim, yes or no?
Donald Trump's nomination
It looks like
of
she's moving to a yes.
XX
Brian, yes
to
or no?
the Supreme Court.
Are the 3
of the
white
United
males say
States.
yes?
A number of senators joined the race to announce their opposition, but they were beaten to the punch by one of our colleagues who actually announced opposition before the nominee's identity was even
Oh, so she
known.
knows the background. She's not as
Since that
out of it as I
time,
thought.
We have seen special interest groups with
Oh, she's
their
really setting the
followers
stage.
into
If she
a
says no,
fence
I'm leaving radio.
by spreading misrepresentation.
I'm saying she's going to say yes. If she says no, I'm quitting. I'm leaving the business.
Judicial record. Over-the-top rhetoric.
Oh, please, I
and
swear to you, the
distortions
migraines.
of
Stop her voice. I can't. She reminds me of all the teachers that made me a truant as a youth. I can't take this anymore. I'd have to take breaks in the bathroom from teachers like this till they finished the sentence. You know, you couldn't take a second. Okay, well, let's try her again. The people want to hear her.
Social media. Interest groups have also spent an unprecedented amount of dark money opposing this nomination. Our Supreme Court confirmation process has been in steady decline for more than 30 years.
Wow.
One can only hope
She's
that
gutsy.
the Kavanaugh nomination is where the process has finally hit rock bottom.
She ought to run for something after
Against
this.
this backdrop,
Maybe the Senate
it is
even.
up to each individual senator to decide what the Constitution's advice.
I am so
and
succumbed from this
necessity
speech.
means.
I'm gagging from it.
Informed
Can't she
by
make a statement?
Alexander Hamilton's Federalist
Stop. No more Federalist. Please, Susan. You know, if she sent the tape out to become a talk show host, the PD would have broken the CD and thrown it in the garbage can after 7 seconds. They would say she'll never make it in radio. But you got to listen to this. Go ahead. I learned that the first day I started in radio. On KSFO. No, I can't take it. Wait till she says something. I remember when I started in radio on KSFO. Jack Swanson, who was back there, congratulations, Jack, told me that he gets hundreds and hundreds of tapes a week at that time. They would send CDs. And he taught me that if you don't know what you're saying in 7 seconds, you're finished in this business. That's why they all wind up in the Senate. Let's go back now and see where they are.
Be able to put aside any and all personal preferences in deciding the cases that come before
I'm having
them.
an anxiety attack.
I've never considered the president's identity or party.
Turn it off, please. You know, I'm a strong guy. I can handle an awful lot. Do you know I'm actually having a hyperventilation and an anxiety attack from her? It's the cadence of her speaking and how long it's taking her to make a statement. If I had a mother like that, I would have run away at 5. Let me hear the rest of this.
Justices Sotomayor and Kagan, who were nominated by President Obama.
This is going to go on, I think, about 30.
Who was
a 30-minute
nominated
job
by President Trump. So I began my evaluation
Lord,
of
the
Judge
whole
Kavanaugh's nomination by reviewing his 12-year record.
And I've come to the conclusion, knew already what?
Circuit Court of Appeals, including his more than 300 opinions and his many.
All right, she's laying the groundwork for the fact that she's going to say yes. I get it. I got it. The migraine is now complete.
Including lawyers.
No, my whole right eye is out. I can't even see.
Congressional Research Service.
I'm in a
briefed
sweat.
me many times each week,
God.
insisted me.
Stop. You know, I was going to tell you about having dinner in North Beach last night, and a bum took a dump right outside the window, and I left I swear to God, I was going to tell you about that. A man defecated in the streets of San Francisco in front of the restaurant, and nobody did anything. It's lower than an animal. Thank you, Nancy Pelosi. All right, turn it back on. But I can't. I can't talk about that. I have to listen to this now.
Rice and many others. And I talked with Judge Kavanaugh a second time by phone for another hour to ask him very specific.
If you had her as a teacher in the 3rd grade, tell me what would 5th grade, let's say.
I also have met with thousands of my constituents, both advocates and many opponents, regarding
I have to
Judge
leave it on,
Kavanaugh.
though. That's an obligation.
One concern that I frequently heard was that the judge would be likely to eliminate the Affordable
Okay, stop.
Care
I can't
Act.
take it. You listen in the background when she's warming up to actually say it. So therefore, I come to the conclusion that and then at that point we'll take her on again. I can't listen to this. It seems to me she's lining up to justify why she is saying yes, and I hope she gets it over with already. We already had one defection from a Democrat who moved over to our side. And, of course, we had Lisa Murkowski from Alaska stab us in the back. How you people in Alaska can keep voting her in, I'll never understand. What, she didn't get another bridge to nowhere? I was going to tell you about the bum defecating in the streets of San Francisco outside a restaurant window and what a Mexican busboy told me they would do to him in Mexico. But, okay, you don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear that the plague is coming next among the homeless armies. You don't want to hear any of that. No. You want to hear this now, the dotterer. Let's go back to the doddering senator.
Constitutional grounds. He has argued for severing the invalid clause as surgically.
Stop. No, I'm trying my best. Not only is this woman giving me a migraine, I think the whole spectrum is now. My mouth is starting to feel nauseous from it. I'm getting sick. I'm actually having an anxiety attack from this woman. Is there anyone out there reacting to her the same way I am? I don't understand this. She's driving us crazy. I'll have to change my undershirt after the break. Why is she taking so long? Can't she just say, I've given it careful consideration, and upon consideration, and I'll present my reasons why, after then, I'm voting yes, and goodbye? No, I have to listen to every thought that she had in the last 6 years. All right, let's take another dip into it again. Susan Collins, building it up.
It would take just this kind
Oh,
of
the whisper.
approach.
That was very dramatic.
Another assertion that
Very
I've heard
vaudevillian.
often is that Judge Kavanaugh cannot be trusted if a case involving alleged wrongdoing by the president...
Stop. I'm going to ask my audience right now, do you want to hear about the homeless bum defecating in the street outside the restaurant window and what I think needs to be done to the homeless bums in every city in this country to help them? Or would you rather I play Susan Collins? 855-400-7282, because typhus has broken out in the L.A. bum community. Homeless community. Typhus, that little thing called typhus spread by fleas, which I predicted the other day on the radio show. Plague is next. And by the way, the plague that I'm going to tell you about, let me tell you something. The bacterium that is spread by the fleas off the rats does not discriminate based upon how progressive you are. It doesn't know whether it's a progressive ankle walking by or a right-wing ankle walking by. It's called health, idiots. Can we listen to her again? I don't know if the people want to hear her or me.
Given the current special counsel investigation,
Again?
President Trump should not even be allowed to nominate a justice. That argument ignores our recent history.
This could go on yet. This could be a 2-hour job.
Boy, they don't know how to get to a point. Ginsburg, after the Whitewater investigation was already underway, and she was confirmed 96-3.
And say she was the chief litigator for the evil ACLU.
Independent counsel Robert Fisk.
See, she won't even say who Ginsburg is. I'm getting the lines are lighting up. I know what's going on.
Clinton nominated.
You want to hear about the bum defecating outside the restaurant window or not?
Confirmed.
Or you want to listen to this one?
9. Supreme Court justices
she won't
have
stop.
not hesitated to
What
rule
a
against
sense of timing.
the presidents who have nominated them.
She's so bad that she deserves a slot on MSNBC.
In the United States,
she could be a fill-in for the other
3
one there.
Nixon appointees.
I don't know. In the voice, there's something. Turn it off. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm having a flashback to a teacher in the 5th grade who sounded like this and wore a certain kind of toilet water that gave me a migraine for life. I've been in and out of like aromatherapy trying to get the scent out of my nostrils. But there it is again, no matter where I turn. Imagine getting stuck in an elevator listening to her talking to another senator. That would be my idea of hell. Okay, well, I have to run it, though. It's a national radio show. I understand. Go ahead.
Supreme Court cases in history. What do they have in common?
Does anyone have a kazoo I could be playing while waiting?
Served as
Get me my harmonica.
On
Ryan, get me my harmonica.
Power.
I'm going to play it over her as a soundtrack.
Case that Judge Kavanaugh has pointed to as
all right, stop. Downtown L.A. hit with outbreak of flea-borne typhus. You don't care about that. Deadly bacteria warning goes out to visitors of Berlin sex club. What did I just tell you about yesterday about the Weimar Republic in Germany? The Weimar Republic was not as degenerate as the America of today. And what happened in Germany after the excessive liberalism is something the world never wants to see happen again. But I can guarantee you if we let these bums crap in the street and we continue to let the insanity that is going on in this Western world of ours, the worst is yet to come, okay? Let's go back to Susan. I'll entertain myself.
The D.C. Circuit by
still on.
President Bush and had worked in President Bush's White House, ruled that the conviction was unlawful. As he explained during the hearing, quote,
I think I'll
we don't
play
make
Old MacDonald
decisions
over her.
based on who people are or their policy preferences or the moment. We base decisions on the law, end quote. Others I've met with have expressed concerns.
Oh, Lord,
that
this one
Justice
really is milking
Kennedy's
this.
Retirement
Or turn her off for a minute. We'll get the answer before. All right, let me take one call. Jesse, the bum or Collins, line 9, go ahead, please.
Yeah, the bums are too much. They've taken over the country with this democratic rhetoric, and I'm tired of it, and I'm sick of it, and that's all.
No, I'm talking about bums defecating and urinating in the streets and beating people up. I am talking about violence and disease that is coming out of the homeless community, and I don't like the word homeless. Okay? I don't like that word. That's a liberal word that was invented to make us feel guilty.
And
there are shelters for them. They don't have the right to say, I don't want to stay in a shelter. Who gave them the right to go and defecate in the street? You did. You did with your tolerance, you idiot, you. She's still not finished. I don't believe. Look, I got to take a commercial break. Let's have one more taste of Susan Collins, then a quick break on the Savage Nation.
Birth control. In one case, Judge Kavanaugh incurred the disfavor of both sides of the political spectrum for seeking
see
to
why
ensure
anyone with brains doesn't go into
politics. Contraceptive services for women, while minimizing the involvement of employers.
We'll get you. Okay, we'll get back to her, and she'll still be on probably an hour from now. Back in a minute.
Savage.
Since at least 1980, during this
she had
time,
me fooled. I'll tell you that.
Republican presidents have
hold
appointed.
it. Now wait a minute. Hold it. This is too much. Everyone's waiting for her to say yes or no on Kavanaugh. She could have come out and in a few minutes said, I have my justifications. I'm 100% behind Kavanaugh, and here's why. Now go to my site, goodbye. But no, here we're now listening to what they do in the Senate. Now you know why Congress is hated by the American people. So she's grandstanding. It doesn't stop. I wanted to tell you about what's going on in the streets of not only San Francisco, New York, and every other city in this country is plagued by so-called homeless who have become increasingly violent and are spreading diseases, as I've been trying to warn you for years. People call me every name under the sun, and I have a solution to the homeless problem. And the solution may not be pretty, but whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. The mental hospitals will be reopened because the police are not equipped to handle the violent ones. Did you hear me? They will be committed against their will. Despite what Governor Jerry Brown's father did to this state, they will be put back into mental hospitals where they'll get the care that they desperately need. If a man pulls his pants down and defecates in a street, tell me that man's not screaming out to be put away in a nut house. Tell me, what is the next solution?
Savage.
Process moving forward.
There. She's
Some
still
of
there.
the allegations levied against Judge Kavanaugh illustrate.
All right, let's turn it off. I told you she'd still be here. I told you. I could have gone out. I could have called a doctor, an ambulance for the headache by now. I could have had oxygen delivered. She's still up there. Could you imagine if you were a kid and you had a mother like this and you said, Mom, can I go out and play? She said, I'll let you know. I'm going to make my decision. Let me tell you what my thinking is. And 3 hours later, she tells you no or yes. This is what she's doing to the world now. Now you understand why anyone with a brain doesn't go into politics. Nobody. Nobody with a sense of dignity would go into this field. Who would want a job like that? You know, they do this to each other all day long. No one says anything. I can imagine if they say hello to each other, it takes 25 minutes. They must approach each other. Hello, Senator Graham. I want to tell you why I'm going to say hello to you in a minute. But let me give you my reasons why I'm going to say hello and the way I'm going to say it. Now, let me preface that hello by telling you that my preface needs to be predated by a statement about why I'm going to give you a preface about how I'm going to say hello to you. So, Senator Graham, please settle down for a minute while I tell you why I'm going to say hello to you in a certain way. This is how they talk to each other. The system's broken. I mean, we may as well eliminate Congress. Caesar had it right. He put a horse in the place of a senator. He got rid of one of the senators and put a horse in the chair. You can see why. All right, let's go back and see if she'll give us the solution.
Painful and compelling.
This is unbelievable.
I believe
painful.
that she is a survivor of a sexual assault.
But
and
we don't know who it
this
was.
trauma
Right.
Has upended.
How come you don't mention
her
the CIA
life?
connections? How come you don't mention the fact that her
Nevertheless,
friends said that she didn't
the
get...
four
Come
witnesses
on.
she named could not corroborate any of the events.
All right, let me
of
take a
that
call.
evening
She'll be there for a
gathering
while yet. She's
when
enjoying her
she
moment
says-
in her 15 minutes of fame. Where's Andy Warhol now that we don't need him? She's had her 35 minutes of fame. She's had 2 15-minute. She's had a double. She's had her double 15 minutes of fame. Okay, let's go to KBOI Radio. Christopher, make it quick. What's on your mind? Go ahead, please.
Oh, man, you're killing me, man. I'm laughing so damn hard. It was Caligula who put the horse on the Senate, not Caesar.
You're right. See, I got a literate listener, so for that reason alone, I'm giving you just won a free hardcover copy of, well, if you can name it, you gain it. What's the name of my new book coming out Tuesday?
Oh, damn, you caught me. I can't remember it, but that's not important. What I want to know is if you can play, well, you get no meat with one, you get no bread with one meatball on that harmonica, because that's what you got there is a meatball.
All right, thank you for the idea. I have no idea what he meant, but I was in the city last night not eating meatballs, as I started to tell you. I hadn't been in North Beach in a while because of the violence of the bums and the violence of the streets and the feces in the streets, but I love it so much I went in after the show. So I go to one of my haunts early because it's not crowded. I sit in the back to be left alone. I have the calamari, which comes in off the ship. I know the guy from Monterey. He's a Sicilian, specializes in one-way fishing trips, for those of you who want to take a fishing trip with him. And he brought in, and it's fresh calamari. It's not frozen and sent to China and defrosted and cleaned and frozen and sent back like most of the garbage you're eating today. This is the real McCoy. And they make it with a certain sauce for me, no salt and pepper. Really unbelievable. And I'm drinking my wine, and a few guys are back there. I order my next course, but I get up to go in the street. I swear to God, I'm standing on Columbus Avenue. A guy comes out, and I had to look twice. Across Columbus Avenue, he dropped his drawers, and he defecated in the street. And he didn't even clean himself. He picked his pants up and walked on down the street. I got so sick, I couldn't finish my meal. I couldn't get it out. You know, there's certain images you can't get out of your head. Now, it's strange to me that this happened. I've read about it. I've heard about it. I've seen it, on television. But no one believes it until you see it. What civilized city on the planet would permit this to happen? Why are the police prevented from arresting these human... Well, there's words for it, but I'm not even allowed to use them. Many words apply to what we see in the cities of this country. The other day I talked to you about what's coming. I told you that what's coming is the plague. I told you we'd have an outbreak before the plague of something like the plague. And bingo, last night, what's the story from CBS LA buried by the liberal media? Downtown LA hit with outbreak of flea-borne typhus. And then they try to blame it on everything but the bums. Practice safe flea control, use flea control products on pets. They're trying to blame it on pet owners, when in fact the outbreak was amongst the bums in the bum community. And it's inevitable this is going to happen. You don't have to have a degree in epidemiology to know what's coming next. The next thing is the plague. And you'll say, how did that happen? How did the plague break out in a first world nation? All you got to do is look at Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein. And look at the corruption of these two. And you'll see why the nation is declining. And so, my friends, it doesn't get worse, but it does get worse. Here's another one. If it feels good, do it in the road. Remember the 60s? If it feels good, do it in the road. Oh, let it all hang out. Deadly bacteria warning goes out to visitors of Berlin's sex club. Berlin's hedonistic Kit Kat Club nightclub advised to seek immediate medical attention, potential exposure to deadly bacteria. For those who visited the club on September 29th to be checked for Neisseria meningitis, the bacteria that can cause meningitis. And how do you think it spread? Where did it spread in the sex club? Well, I thought all sex is healthy, including orgiastic sex. Isn't that what they taught you in the first grade? No, it's not all safe. My mother was 100% right. Sex is dirty. And the fact of the matter is, with the rampant insanity of the sexual liberation movement that's spreading through the West, all of us are at risk. And so, again, it goes back to yesterday's program about what happens when the West, when any nation starts to go into a state of decadence and decline as a result of ultraliberalism. What happens is an equal and opposite reaction. And we have seen nothing yet, because Donald Trump is not the reaction. Trump is only the first stage of the reaction. Trump is a moderate centrist, in case you don't know it. What you need in that office to save America, truly, is not Donald Trump. You need a right-winger. He is not a right-winger by any means. And so here we have sitting here shaking over her with the announcement now. And she still hasn't given it. It's 40 minutes into the preamble yet. Let's go back to old Susie Collins.
With respect. The Me Too movement is real.
Okay, here we go again.
Matters.
I thought I had the migraine somewhat under control.
Needed. And it
Stop. They're now destroying men for no reason. Go read what they're doing now on college campuses. They're posting men's names, students, boys' names, whether they're guilty or not, just to scare them. See it. See what they're doing. Don't tell me the Me Too movement is necessary. It's a witch hunt. You know it and I know it. Stop it already. What, because a group of hysterical left-wing activists funded by George Soros and other evildoers have you having to say that over and over again after so many lives have been ruined? No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a Supreme Court nominee who is a moderate centrist, a Bush judge, by no means a right-wing judge. What we need is a right-wing judge to counter the damage that Ruth Bader Ginsburg has done to this nation for the last 40 years. But nevertheless, they go hysterical and they make you think that the guy isn't what he is. They've done it to anyone who stands up to the left-wing juggernaut because there are hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars being pumped into the left-wing movements by evildoers that you can't even imagine. They're foreigners in some cases to destabilize America. They could be Chinese. It could be China's money. It could be Russia money. It could be George Soros money. Anything they can do to destabilize this political system, they do. And they have armies of susceptible idiots who Lenin called useful idiots to do their bidding, going out in the street with pink hats, with whistles. Even if they're men, they should be wearing pink hats and have a whistle in their hand. So here we go. Let's try her again. Maybe it'll be over soon. Maybe the agony will end.
Many years. To them, I pledge to
Ryan,
do
is there
all
a crown
that
of thorns
I
you can get me from the back room?
to ensure that their daughters...
Wait, turn it off. I can't take it. I swear. No, this is not an act. I need a crown of thorns to put up with another second of her. You know, I'm trying to filibuster her till she gets to her point, because you could listen to her anywhere. You go watch it on TV, which you're probably doing. Are you telling me that's good radio or good television? Just listen to her? What are you shaking your hand like? What? What do you have? A crown of thorns? What? She's about to hit the what? Let's.
Both Professor Ford and
She's building
Judge
it up?
Kavanaugh.
She's
I
about
also
to say
pushed
it?
for and supported the FBI's supplemental background
You think she's concluding, Jim?
investigation.
That's the difference
This
between you
was
and I.
the right thing
I'll
to
lay
do.
you bet right now, 6-1. She's not finished the next 5 minutes.
Ford never sought the spotlight.
Did she say Crispy Ford?
She
Oh,
indicated
Christine
that
Ford.
she was terrified
I thought it was a new pastry,
before
Crispy
the Senate
Ford.
Judiciary Committee, and she has shunned
Crispy Ford.
attention since then.
Oh, you didn't say
She
Dr.
seemed
Ford.
completely-
Hold it. That's a demerit right there, Susan. You didn't say Dr. Ford. You should say Dr. Ford in your sleep. In fact, write Dr. Ford on the blackboard 50 times. Okay, let's she's building
Mr.
up.
President, I could not help but feel
I'm going to plot if
that
this keeps up.
some people who wanted
pain
to
in my left
engineer
liver.
the defeat of this
The left
nomination
side of my liver's hurting now. It's so
cared
bad.
little,
He went from
if
the head to
at
the liver.
all, for her well-being.
This is like a systemic disease listening to her.
Professor Ford testified that
Dr.
a very
Ford, say Dr.
limited
Ford.
number of people had
Doctor.
access
You got
to
a sore
her
throat, see
letter.
Dr. Ford.
Yet that letter found its way into the public domain. She
Okay,
testified
I
that
told
she
Jim
never
I win.
gave permission
I win
for
6-1.
that
She's still
very
doing it. You thought she was
private
winding up.
letter to be released. And yet, here we are. We are in the middle of a fight that she never sought, arguing about claims that she wanted to raise confidentially.
45 minutes now.
One theory I've heard
Now
espoused
my neck's going out. This is
repeatedly
serious
is that
business
our
now.
colleague Senator
It's spreading from the
Feinstein
right eye,
leaked
left
Professor
liver
Ford's
quadrant.
letter at the 11th
Now the neck.
hour
This is
to derail
look. I
this
can't take
process.
this. I have to do
wanna
it for a
state
living.
this
No
very
amount of money on
clearly.
earth is worth listening to her. This is torture.
I know Senator Dianne Feinstein extremely well.
Oh, you do?
And I believe that she would never do that.
Oh, you're a liar.
I knew
Now I
that
don't
to
believe
be
a
the
word you're
case
saying.
before
I don't
she
care which way you
stated
vote.
it at
Feinstein's
the
as
hearing.
dirty as they come. Stop with she wouldn't do it. Tell us about Dianne Feinstein.
I have
Tell us a little
also
bit more
heard
about your good
some
friend Dianne
argue
Feinstein.
that the chairman
You know why they
of the
don't say anything
committee
about each other? Because they're all doing the same thing.
Professor Ford
That's why.
unfairly.
Thank God I'm not in politics.
Nothing could be further from the truth. Chairman Grassley.
Okay, stop. This is really damaging to the psyche of America. I don't think American broadcasting will ever recover from this woman. She's never had this much airtime in her entire 50 years in the Senate. She's been there since, I think, Eisenhower. She was probably an intern for Eisenhower's shoeshine assistant. And she worked her way up into the Senate. How did this woman become a senator? Who would vote for this woman at a campaign rally? They'd be fainting. You need fainting salts to listen to her. Imagine going to a Susan Collins rally. You have to bring fainting salts to pick us. Again, I'm at another break. I can't believe this. Oh, we can take any break you want now because she'll be up there for a while. This is a crowning moment. Wait to see how she's lauded tomorrow by the Republicans. Okay, back in a minute.
Savage.
Every one of us has had an old car, used car, run out of the warranty. You take it in for an oil change, you get hit with thousands of dollars in a repair bill. Well, what are you going to do about it? Well, what you should have done and what you should do is get extended vehicle protection from CarShield. Look, if your car breaks down after the manufacturer's warranty expires, it could cost you thousands to get it fixed. An engine? What does an engine cost today? What, $10,000? $5,000? A sensor, $1,000? CarShield makes the process of fixing your car for a covered repair super easy. You can have your favorite mechanic do it or the dealership. They also give you 24/7 roadside assistance and a rental car while yours is being fixed absolutely free. If your car has 5,000 to 150,000 miles, it does not mean you have to pay high repair bills. CarShield administrators have paid out close to $2 billion in claims, and they're ready to help you. So listen, save yourself thousands in future car repairs. Get covered by the ultimate in extended vehicle protection. Call 800-CAR-6100, 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 code SAVAGE. Or visit carshield.com, code SAVAGE, and you'll save 10%. That's carshield.com, code SAVAGE, or call 800-CAR-6100, code SAVAGE. A deductible may apply. Collins votes yes on Cav. Collins votes yes on Cav. It took her 50-some-odd minutes to finally, she justified it. But it's in. Now, this is not the final, but usually what happens today is what happens on the final on Saturday. So we have it. We saved it for those of you who may not have caught it. Susan Collins, who's always been a fence sitter, has come out and said yes on Kavanaugh. Let's play it for the vast audience of the Savage Army.
An exemplary public servant, judge, teacher, coach, husband, and father. Despite the turbulent, bitter fights surrounding his nomination, my fervent hope is that Brett Kavanaugh will work to lessen the divisions in the Supreme Court.
Oh, she's wonderful now. Everyone loves her.
Fewer 5-4 decisions.
Right, so it'll be 6-3, that's all.
That
was a nice way to put it, right?
In our judiciary,
I like that.
And our highest court.
We need less of a. Well, she's right. All right.
Mr. President, I will vote to confirm Judge Kavanaugh.
Yay! Now, of course, tomorrow is going to be another nail-biter when they actually vote. I don't know if that'll be broadcast, but that's when all 100 senators. But we had one Republican defection in the form of Lisa Murkowski from Alaska. And then we had one come over from the Dim side because Manchin's in a state that is largely in favor of Trump. So even though he's a Dim, he had to go yes on Cav. So that was a trade-off. But right now, she's a swinger, a swing voter. And so that's a good thing. And it looks like it's going to go down that we will have on the Supreme Court, and all the pink hats can go home and go home crying and throw their pink hats in the gutters on the way out the door. Soros will raise another $100 million to disrupt the Supreme Court in some way or another until he's finally either deported by Interpol, deported by America and picked up by Interpol, and finally punished for disrupting our elections. You talk about foreign interference in our elections. What about domestic interference in our elections? Well, that's a topic for another day. Well, anyway, it's a very good day for us. And make no mistake about it, it's us versus them. They made it very clear. The battle lines are drawn. It's us versus them. And we won. And they lost. No matter how they tried to smear this guy Kavanaugh, no matter what they did, it didn't stick. And the big losers are yet to be seen. You wait and see the blowback against the Democrats when all of the Republicans come out and they see through the mass hysteria that was inflicted upon this nation. You wait and see.
Savage. Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
I do feel good. I mean, it's a big deal. And we'll get another one soon, too. Oh, yeah, there'll be another one very soon. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is at least 115, who never, ever was qualified to be put on the Supreme Court because she had been chief litigator for the radical left-wing ACLU. She's been there for 40 years destroying America. But, look, we're celebrating today. The most interesting thing Susan said to me was she thinks that the old split decisions of 5-4 were bad for America, so she wants to end that and make it a little more of a majority, 6-3. That was very clever. Yeah, I'll be happy when it's 9-0. That's when America might have a chance to survive again, when we have a 9-0 Supreme Court, and I mean super right-wing, 9-0. I'll give them 8-1. Just to have a voice of dissent. But right now we have a lot to celebrate, and I'm announcing this for the first time on the Savage Nation. There will be a celebration tomorrow after the full Senate confirmation vote on Kavanaugh, and I invite you to bring a bucket of ice and a six-pack to a location in San Francisco that will be designated on this program before the end of the show. Guys, just get a bucket of ice and a six-pack, and we'll all meet somewhere in North Beach and have a real celebration for the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh, okay? Let's really go full fraternity here on the Savage. Let's just act like guys and drink our beer and throw ice at each other. It's no one's business. Or we could have a keg party under the Golden Gate Bridge if you'd like, but I'm not one to want to get wet. Christy on KSFO, line 6. How do you feel right now about the nomination of Kavanaugh? It seems pretty much 100%.
I am so pumped, and I am so, Michael, in all the years I've listened to you, I've never laughed so hard at all of this filibustering that you have been doing during this life. My husband's even laughing out loud, and he doesn't.
When you say even, you mean he's not an easy guy to make laugh?
Well, he likes to read his news as opposed to me listening to you and listening to news. So,
all right, a quick question. How many years have you listened to the Savage Nation and where?
I stream it on the radio. And it used to be on here locally on WVNN. I'm in Decatur, Alabama.
Yeah.
I listen to you there.
Now, I know a lot of stations for political reasons have dropped my show. They like the sound of Mickey Mouse on Laughing Gas or something like that. And as a result of that, you have to get me on the stream or somewhere else. But I'm sending you a copy of my book, which is out Tuesday. I hope you're going to want to read it, but you have to name it. If you name it, you gain it. What's the name of my book? It's coming out Tuesday.
Mass Hysteria.
All right, that's not the full title, but you got it anyway. Beautiful hardcover copy. Wonderful book to save America. America's Insanity, from the Salem witch trials to the Trump witch hunt. Stop mass hysteria. It's a political book and a history book. So we got Collins, we got Manchin from the other side came over, 855-107-282. So let me go back to the bum defecating in the streets of San Francisco last night. I'm not making this up. I got sick watching it. I ate the first course. I went out to take a breather, and I had to look twice. And there he was. He dropped the drawers, and he defecated in the streets. And people walked around him. You know, when I was a kid, I grew up watching a lot of news. I used to like to watch the news of the world, you know, and the camera would go around. And they'd show the poverty and despair in India. And they'd show people laying in the streets, and people would walk around them. And I used to say to my father, how do they walk around people who are laying in the streets like this? And my father gave me whatever answer it was. I don't really remember what he said. But I couldn't believe a society would evolve that you'd walk around people who were living in the gutters and not take care of them, because I'm basically a compassionate person. I'm a former social worker. Never, ever forget that. But it's gone past compassion. When you have so many bums who have degenerated to levels below that of animals and are violent on top of it all, and they are encouraged to do these things by the city in order to upset the middle class, that's another story. And there are solutions to the bum problem, and they're going to happen whether you like me or hate me, whether you agree with me today or don't. I guarantee you that there is enough anger right now, even amongst liberals in these big cities, that this will happen. And it's not a genius that you need to figure this out. What you do is you undo what Jerry Brown's father did when he passed a law that says you cannot institutionalize people against their will. Now, I know the rule. Yeah, he actually wrote the bill. He passed the bill, Governor Edmund G. Pat Brown, and then it was inherited by the Republican governor who followed him, who had to enact it. But it was under the father of Moonbeam that the bums were allowed out of the mental hospitals. So here we are 40-some-odd years later, and instead of being treated better, they're treated worse. They won't stay in the homeless shelters that exist for them, and they're urinating, defecating, beating people up in the street. And now it's typhus breaks out in L.A. in the bum community. Tomorrow it's the plague, and I try to warn the people, but they don't listen. They're just like I'm talking to myself. I came into radio 25 years ago because I was so agitated over what I saw happening with diseases being brought in by illegal immigrants. I thought that was bad enough. I tried to have a book published called Immigrants and Epidemics. And after I had 6 books published by then, and it was supposed to be a co-authored book between myself and my PhD chairman at UC Berkeley at the time. Great guy, wonderful man, highly respected scholar, and nobody in New York would publish it. They said it's a great book, but we're not publishing it. It's too politically hot. That was then. That was in the early 90s. You know how much worse it's gotten now? Do you realize what a miracle it is that I can still publish books with the biggest publisher in the world? You know, Hachette owns all the major imprints. Great publisher. They were 100% behind me. They've had 6 bestsellers in a row with me with no television exposure to speak of. Now Stop Mass Hysteria, which will be, I'm guaranteeing it'll be. Well, I'd say 99% my last political book, 99. Because come January, you're going to lose me on the radio in many stations across America for different reasons I can't go into. You'll still be able to get me on streaming anywhere in the country. And it doesn't matter. One way or the other, my message will get out. Everybody wants to go into podcasting. It's the new form of media. And, of course, I will be in podcasting in January as well. You'll have 1 hour of live radio, 1 hour podcast. Some stations will take that as 2 hours, where they'll repurpose the podcast into a radio show, eliminating all the good stuff for the radio. But you'll get the good stuff and the other stuff on the podcast. But that's coming in January, God willing. It's really in God's hands. It's not in my hands. But right now we have this to talk about. Collins votes yes on Cav. This is a seismic shift in America right now. When he is confirmed tomorrow, as everyone expects will happen, all hell will break loose. I can guarantee you the left is ready to commit severe violence. And you've got to be prepared for the hatred that's coming. You've got to stand up to the people, even in your own family, who are confused. They're bewildered. They don't understand who Kavanaugh is, let alone what the country is and should be. And so you're going to have a lot of work to do over the months and even years to come. The phone number here is 855-400-7228. The big news is Collins votes yes on Kavanaugh. I published an article that I want you to read entitled, I just posted it, The Plague is Next Among the Homeless Armies. It's on my website. It's on my Twitter feed. And I hope you take it seriously because I, as a former public health scientist, I'm warning you again that the chronic homelessness in our nation's cities are now reaching a critical mass. They've allowed the homeless to overrun the streets. Now, some saw my warnings as exaggerated, but we're now reaping the consequences of this neglect as we see today in the city of Los Angeles. You see, Los Angeles County officials are warning residents after several cases of flea-borne typhus have come to light. Now, typhus is closely linked to poor hygiene and overcrowding, and if left untreated, it can cause severe organ damage. The cases are being seen in the bum communities, which you call homeless communities. I'm not going to use the word homeless over and over again. It's a left-wing invention, the word homeless. Do you know where it came from? It's to make you, the middle class, who's working around the clock to pay taxes and to keep your own family clean. They want to make you feel guilty that someone has destroyed their life to the point that they can't even afford an apartment anywhere. They want to make you feel you have to build them some Soviet bloc housing somewhere in your beautiful city to house more of them. No, that's not the way it works. You see, I was once a young man who was poor, and I had a job in New York City. I was a social worker. I wanted to live in Manhattan. I had a dream. I wanted to live down on Sullivan Street in the West Village. I wanted a little apartment. That's all I wanted was a little apartment after I got out of college with a brick wall, so I could be a bohemian, walk around the streets, drink in the bars, and have a good time after I worked. But guess what? I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford to live in the West Village in New York even then. So what do you think I did? I did what everyone else has been doing forever. What do you think they built the subways for and the Long Island Railroad? They built it for commuters because commuters couldn't live in Manhattan who worked in Manhattan. So guess what I had to do? I took a subway home at night, And I went to an apartment I didn't want to live in Queens, New York. And it wasn't bad, but it really wasn't where I wanted to be. It was not cool. It was kind of boring. But I had to do it. And I do the bridge and tunnel thing on the weekend when I wanted to have a good time. But that's the way the world works. Not everyone's entitled to an apartment where they want to have it. And no one in the world is entitled to have the benefits of a society if they crap on it in plain English. It's that simple. And so I say to you, the plague is next amongst the homeless armies. You can laugh at me. You can revile me. But you better pay careful attention to the fact that microbes do not discriminate. Fleas do not discriminate. They're very democratic. And they don't know if the ankle going past the bum with the louse or the louse on the bum. They don't know. The lice do not know whether you're a progressive or whether you support Trump. All they know is they see a nice hot foot going by. And if they should leap onto your ankle, and you should be bitten by that flea that has jumped off an infected individual, you too are likely to become infected. Now, the liars in the health industry are saying typhus cannot be transmitted between humans. Well, that's true in one way, but typhus transfers when fleas are infected with bacteria known as Rickettsia typhi or Rickettsia felis. And humans can get the disease from a flea bite or by rubbing infected flea feces into sores or cuts on the skin. You wouldn't know if it's flea feces. A flea bites you, then a flea relieves himself on your foot, and you get an itch, and you rub yourself, and you're rubbing the bacteria into your circulation. Now, Wednesday on this national program, The Savage Nation, I warned about the health threat the homeless populations in America pose to our cities. And I'm warning you sheeple over and over again. You have created this Frankenstein's monster. I have told you I walked down the streets of San Francisco and I've seen bums picking lice off their rotting clothing and throwing them in the street. Of course, I walked to the other side of the street. I also warned you just the other day what diseases are lurking in the streets of San Francisco. You have the lice, you have human feces, you have the rats. That's a totally perfect incubator for a major epidemic. And once this epidemic breaks out, who are you going to blame? You're going to blame us, those of us who said round them up and give them the treatment that they so desperately need? Or are you going to blame yourself for being oh so tolerant? Now, I fear that this is going to get much worse. I fear typhus may only be the beginning. And I ask, could we witness an emergence of the plague in our lifetime in the civilized West? And I say it is possible. And I also say we must stop these outbreaks and end this invasion to protect us and the homeless from themselves. And I say reopen the mental hospitals across America and build new ones and intern them against their will. This is the Savage Nation.
Savage.
Let it all hang out. If it feels good, do it. Why not do it in the road? Don't be judgmental. Deadly bacteria outbreak at Sex on the Dance Floor nightclub. So you think that you can have orgiastic sex with impunity? Well, no. God and nature have their own little plan. A Berlin nightclub where guests frequently have sex on the dance floor faced a deadly bacteria scare on Saturday. A male patron of the Kit Kat Club rushed to the hospital suspected of contracting bacterial meningitis. Now, of course, you knew this would happen. This is what happens when you have this kind of orgiastic sex. This is why Muslims hate the West. This is why the West makes believe it's superior to the rest of the world when it really is in decline. The birth rates should indicate that with all this sex, there are no children. And with all these children in these other countries, it's because they lead a different kind of life. And so you can figure out where this world is going and what it's going to look like in 20 years. And the Kit Kat Club was opened in 1994 by porn filmmaker Simon Thauer. And the guests who will come to the club are encouraged to have open sex at the nightclub. So now meningitis broke out. It can be spread by saliva and bodily fluids. And, of course, meningitis can be treated to a certain extent, but it's also deadly. German broadcaster Deutsche Welle reports that the man had been at a Carnival Bizarre party in this nightclub where guests sport BDSM and fetish gear and have access to so-called playrooms. I call it something else, but it's a family show. The important thing to remember is that yesterday I was talking about the diseases amongst the homeless population. I also talked about the death of the West. with regard to the Weimar Republic in Germany, and I read at length from Mass Hysteria about what happens in a society that breaks down and what it looks like, and what inevitably follows the breakdown of a liberal society is the opposite end of the pendulum. Trump is not the opposite end of the pendulum of what's coming. If this keeps up, you will look back upon Trump as a liberal president. Mark my words. Mark my words of what I just said. If this keeps up, Trump will be seen for what he actually is, which is a moderate, very moderate president. But this country has so far moved into the realms of the dark sphere of this world. It is so slipped as a civilization that a man like Trump, who's really a centrist, rather a liberal centrist at that, far more conservative, for example, would have been John F. Kennedy, that he's called every name under the sun by the same vermin who try to tell you Kavanaugh was a drunk and a rapist, which was all lies. All lies. And you'll see what's coming. It's do or die for Western civilization. And something tells me it's not about to die. Something tells me it's about to have a rebirth. And I would ask you again to study history so you don't repeat it. It's that simple.
Savage.
For America, I got to tell you, so glad to be in this business, living through these great times. It's a battle for the survival of this country. By the way, that's what you're watching. It really is great to be living in the country right now. We are winning every major battle. And it's only a matter of time till we win every battle. We're going to win it. And I actually see a time that America becomes a clean, safe nation again. I see law and order returning to this nation. I do. Now, maybe I'm looking at the world through rose-colored glass, not just because of Kavanaugh, but believe me, he's a big part of it. Because every vote that goes down will be opposed. Let's say any vote goes down to try and correct the imbalance of this nation, the imbalances. Oh, it'll be appealed right up to what? Supreme Court. Unfortunately, we have given that organization too much power, but nevertheless, they have that power. And we have been plagued for approximately 40 years by outright left-wing fanaticism, unlike any planned by the Founding Fathers. They never envisioned a radical extremist like Ruth Bader Ginsburg being on the Supreme Court. She had been the chief litigator for the anti-American, anti-family, anti-church, anti-God ACLU. She was unqualified at any speed. She got on 92-4. How was that possible? And don't fool yourself. That woman has done more damage than you could ever imagine. But those days are over. She's now moving out in the past. She's very old. She's very sick. I mean, they hang on very long. I noticed that. The evil seem to hang on long. Jimmy Carter, for example, God bless him. When he had a book tour about 4 years ago, he had incurable cancer, remember? He had incurable cancer, supposed to be dead within it during the book tour. But then it's a miracle. It must have been all the snake juice or whatever, the strychnine that they have down there in that religion. I don't know what he did, but he came back out of it. It must be some kind of cure. Her, I don't know how she hangs in there. But now we're going to have more than a 5'4". We'll have a 6'3". And then one of the oldies goes, that's another one Trump gets. It'll be just as contentious. But I don't think they're going to get away with it this time. I think that the conservative Republican Party was actually, they had some steel put into their spines as a result of they saw the dirty tactics of the left. When they saw what Feinstein and Durbin and the others did to this decent man, they're ready for the next appointment. And what they're doing right now, and I can tell you right now because you don't have to be a genius to believe me, it's true. They're doing opposition research on Feinstein. They're trying to dig up every little piece of dirt about her, as well as Durbin, about all of the others who were underhanded and played a dirty game in this. I guarantee you this will start leaking out over the next few months before Trump gets a chance to appoint the next one. I guarantee you some of them will resign. You wait and see what's coming. You wait and see. It doesn't take a genius to see what's coming because the dirty tricks that Feinstein and that crowd played on this poor man will come back to haunt them. And I'll tell you something else that I think is true. And I'm only guessing right now. I'm using pure intuition. Kavanaugh, who was a very, very moderate Republican at the time of his appointment, meaning the announcement of his nomination by Trump, he was a Bush moderate, middle-of-the-road Republican type. What they did to him will make this man move far to the right. He has been hardened by this experience. People are altered by things that happen to them. It happened in my life. I was once a fairly nice liberal guy until I saw that my liberalism allowed me to be run over by the steamroller of the left. They try to steal my birthright from me in this country. It made me harder and angrier every step of the way. It's going to do it to him. What they just did to Kavanaugh is going to have that unintended consequence that all of the Feinsteins and all the King's men never, ever predicted. This man will go so hard right they won't know what hit them. But that's just a prediction. And I've been right most of the times, and I think I'm going to be right now. He will be much more conservative right now. But I want to go back to the social issue of bums defecating and urinating in the streets of the big cities. Because I don't know how long it's going to be till I go back to the city again. I have an apartment in the city, and I go back and forth sometimes. I don't know that I want to be in these streets again. And no matter how good the food is in these restaurants, when you look out of a window and you see a man doing a thing like this, I'm asking, is that appetizing? Is that what I don't understand how a city can tolerate this. So I said to the Mexican busboy when this happened, I got disgusted. I walked up back to the restaurant. I said to him, would this happen in Mexico? He looked at me, said very quietly, no, this wouldn't happen. Now, I cannot tell you on this radio show what that busboy told me they would do to a bum, anyone who would defecate in the streets in front of a woman and a child in Mexico, but he told me what they would do to him. I can't mention it to you. But you can pretty much figure out what the Mexican people would do for this kind of behavior. Now, I want you to understand, this is supposed to be superior to Mexico. America is supposed to be a first world nation or supposed to laugh at Mexico. They wouldn't tolerate it. What would happen to somebody who did that in China? What would happen to somebody who did that in Iran? What would happen to somebody who did that in Beirut, Lebanon? We are no longer a first world nation as a result of the psychotic liberals who have ruined our cities. As a result of the so-called tolerance movement in the West, we are no longer a first world nation by any standards whatsoever. Oh, sure, maybe we have more per capita income. Oh, sure, maybe we have more washing machines and TVs and cars. Oh, sure, maybe more of the morons march around with an iPhone in their hand. That doesn't define a civilization to me. To me, it all comes down to the quality of life. And if you cannot take your granddaughter and walk in the streets of a city for fear that she'll contract a disease from human feces, or worse yet, be attacked by a bum with a stick in his hand, and the cops are powerless to protect you, and you're powerless to shoot him if he tries to hurt you because you'll go to jail before he will, then you no longer have a civilization. What you have is something entirely different, and it is lower than any third world nation on this planet. And something has to change much sooner than rather later. And you think it's going to change with Jerry Brown in Sacramento and the unknown mayor in San Francisco who no one ever heard of? You think it's going to change with Feinstein and whatever the name is, Pelosi up there on the Hill? You think they're going to do anything about this when they cater to this kind of behavior? I don't think so. So let me take some calls on this subject and then the others. I mean, we're also celebrating, really, what just happened. You have Susan Collins giving us the last piece. In case you missed it, we just had a huge, well, it's not over yet. Tomorrow's the final vote, which will ruin my Saturday, by the way. I guess I have to watch it somewhere. I watch it on my iPhone if I have to. I think I'm going to be out on the bay tomorrow watching the Blue Angels. I still have a small boat. I used to have a big boat that I had no boat, and I have a small boat. I have a 25-foot single-engine beautiful boat. And I think I'll go out. I can't go way out into the open bay much because it'll rock around too much. I used to take my boat out to watch the Angels next to, there's a great cove behind the Alcatraz. But I won't be able to do that because there's too many boats. And when you have a little boat, you get a lot of wash coming at you. I may go through another area where it's a little less, windy and whatnot and watch the Blue Angels. Still one of the great spectacles left in the United States of America, detested by the vermin liberals who say that they make too much noise. You hear this? They'll come out of their creepy little apartment stoned out of their mind. What's the noise up in the air? The waste of an environment. What's the noise? Look at the noise they're making. It's all because they're jealous that they can't even drive a car, let alone fly a jet. They can't even drive a car, these people. They're so deranged. Okay, let's take the callers on all of these topics. Is anyone calling from San Francisco seeing the same thing? Anyone in the city? Anyone in New York see this? Fran on WABC in New York. Does this go on in New York, too, with bums doing things like this because of the communist de Blasio there in the mayor's office?
I don't know what the reason of why they do it, but the reason why I'm calling, I'm new to listening to you. But you hit a nerve that right around a year ago, give or take a little teeny bit, I walked up to Main Street. I live in Flushing, New York. I'm within a mile of Oh, okay. I saw.
You're starting to sound like Susan Collins. Just get to the punchline, please, Fran. What'd you see?
All right. I walked back down from Main Street in the LIE. Walked up to the store. As I'm crossing, there's this guy drops his pants right there, corner Main Street and the Long Island Expressway, and takes a dump. I was aghast.
Now, Fran, being a New Yorker from Flushing, New York, you're probably a liberal, right?
I'm no label.
All right, fair enough. But you tend toward Democrats. You think that they're better for the people. But you have to understand, this would not happen if we had people who back traditional values in America and in New York City. It wouldn't happen. The police would be given the power to arrest anyone who does a thing like that and put him into some care facility that they desperately need. Did this occur near a Chinese community? Because Flushing has a large Chinese community.
You think?
No, I don't think. I know. I come from Flushing, New York originally.
Go
look at my old house. It should be a national monument. 7310 Utopia Parkway. They should put a plaque on it. All right, let me send you a copy of Stop Mass Hysteria. You know, every house I lived in should have a national memorial status on it. Michael Savage lived here. Michael Savage wrote this book here. Michael Savage wrote 6 books here. Michael Savage broadcast 700 radio shows from this little house. I don't think it'll happen, though, unless you espouse the communist line. You're not an existent opinion maker in America. My friends, anything else you want to talk about? Bums and disease, perhaps, or bums and busboys? KSFO, Stephen, line 5. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Dr. Savage, you are my hero. San Francisco I was in San Francisco in May, and I was driving down the Mission, and it was disgusting. There were filth all over the place. Guy walking down the street had 2 cats on his shoulders. Disgusting. I used to go to...
Well, wait, what's the wrong with 2 cats on his shoulders?
Huh?
Just 2 cats on his shoulders offended you?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, that's not illegal. At least he wasn't relieving himself in the street.
Huh?
All right, have a job. KSFO, Jeff, line 7. What's on your mind?
Hi, I just had a couple points about the defecating in the street things. First of all, I'm homeless and live in my van. I work 12 hours a night, and I stay in my storage area during the daytime. Now, my dog lives with me, and he knows better than to go on the cement. You know, even
I'm asking you something as a poor man who has to live in a van. I want to ask you something. The people who are defecating in the street, are they mentally ill?
Yes, they are, because, I mean, I was raised in the 70s, and, like, if I was traveling with my parents or something, I had to go to the bathroom, you know, they would tell me to hold it. Just wait till we get to a place.
So why can't a bum go to a homeless shelter to defecate? Why don't they do that? And, you know, there's another issue. Let's be clear. Why aren't there more porta-potty type things all over cities for the bums? Why don't they put them in? I don't understand that.
You know, that's a good question, because the hardest part of being homeless is sometimes in the middle of the night having to go to the bathroom.
All right, so let's be honest for a minute. Let's put aside our political orientation. What's wrong with an idea of installing 1,000 such sanitary units throughout cities? Why don't they do that? Why is that not being done?
I don't know, because, you know, that would help so much.
I'll tell you what I heard from people who work the streets, from the cops. People would use them as shooting galleries. They'd use them for sex. Some people would actually try to live in the porta potty. And so when you have people who are so debased as human beings, nothing will help except incarceration. Back in a minute.
Savage.
You probably heard it by now because I've told you about it. Maybe you heard it elsewhere, but hackers exploited a security vulnerability at Facebook, and it potentially exposed the personal information of nearly 50 million accounts. What attackers did was they stole access tokens, which they could use to take over people's accounts. Access tokens are like digital keys that keep people logged in, so they don't need to re-enter the password every time, right? Facebook says they fixed the vulnerability and informed law enforcement. And with your personal info from a data breach, criminals can open accounts, file tax returns, They can buy a property. There are so many threats in today's connected world, and just take, 1 weak link and bingo, criminals get in there. Good thing new LifeLock Identity Theft Protection adds the power of Norton Security to help protect against threats to your identity and your devices. We all know that no one can stop every cyber threat, prevent all identity theft, or monitor transactions at all business. We know that. But new LifeLock with Norton Security can see threats you might miss on your own. Would you please go to LifeLock.com? Would you please call 1-800-LifeLock and use promo code SAVAGE for an extra 10% off your first year, plus a $25 Amazon gift card with annual enrollment. Once again, that's 1-800-LifeLock, code SAVAGE, or LifeLock.com, code SAVAGE. Terms do apply. Let's go back to the callers on the Savage Nation. We're talking about the outbreak of typhus in the homeless population in Los Angeles. I've been trying to warn you that we need to crack down on these so-called communities, and we need to deal with the issue in a logical manner, a logical and humanitarian manner. There are many things that could be done. This started when Governor Brown's father, Governor Edmund G. Pat Brown, passed through the legislation in California when he was governor, God rest his soul, saying that we should no longer be able to put people into mental hospitals against their will. The law went into effect during the next administration, which was a Republican administration. The Republican has always been blamed for putting the helpless people, if you want to call them that, out on the streets. Well, it wasn't a Republican. He inherited the bill from the Democrat, the good liberal Democrat. This needs to be corrected. It's a 50-year experiment that has shown itself to be a failure. So now we have the issue of typhus breaking out in L.A., and then we're going to look at plague very, very shortly. Plague still exists. Bubonic plague still occurs in the United States of America. And while it was once introduced into the United States, in 1900, plague came in here by rat-infested steamships that had sailed from affected areas, mainly from Asia. Epidemics soon occurred in port cities. The last large urban plague epidemic in the U.S. occurred in Los Angeles from 24 to 1925. It then spread from urban rats to rural rodent species and became entrenched in many areas of the western United States. Well, but it hasn't been seen in a long time. Over 80% of U.S. plague cases have been the bubonic form. And we've only seen about 7 human plague cases a year in the last few decades. But mark my words, with the armies of homeless people in the streets and the rats and the lack of public health care, we're going to see plague outbreak in America. And who are you going to blame at that point? Donald Trump? You can blame Kavanaugh if you'd like. But the blame belongs elsewhere. The blame belongs in an ultra-tolerant, ultra-liberal Politburo that has told us that everyone has rights and everyone's equal. Well, that just isn't true. And when a person loses the ability to take care of themselves, what you have is an outbreak of disease. This is a form of social hysteria, which is yielding disease.
Michael Savage, a host like no other.